something you can never even think of. But he was this pharmaceutical man. He knew how to distill this Gaudiya Vedanta message in such a way that everyone worldwide would be able to take it and take to the process of Krishna consciousness. No one knew how to crack the code, but he was the one who knew how to crack the code. One prominent Gaudiya Math sannyasi said there was this huge mountain in front of us and no one could go through. But Srila Prabhupada blew a hole through it and now everyone is going through. So Srila Gurudev always used to say, he says, first honor him, then honor me. Because we don't have Srila Gurudev without Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is the one that asks Srila Gurudev to come to the West and pour fertilizer, water, in this vineyard that Prabhupada had created worldwide. He knew what Srila Gurudev had to come to give. He knew this last installment he didn't have time to give. And he knew the gifts that Srila Gurudev had and selected him on his final bed to hand the torch. Sripad Bhagavad Maharaj described that very nicely in his presentation of those final days. And Srila Gurudev initially, when Prabhupada asked him to do that, took his hands, thought Prabhupada didn't know what he was saying, because to be able to hand the entire global mission that he had created in all these countries to Srila Gurudev, he'd never left India. He was very comfortably doing bhajan there, serving his Guru Maharaj. But this concept of a global, worldwide mission to be able to hand it over and take it was something that Srila Gurudev was initially hesitant. But Prabhupada wept and made Srila Gurudev put his hands in his hands and made him promise. To carry out his mission to his Guru Maharaj. So Srila Gurudev then, after Prabhupada took his hands in his hands, then started in 1996 with his world tours. And he really represents the cherry on top of Prabhupada's cake that Prabhupada built. No one really thought anybody could really extend Srila Prabhupada's legacy. It was almost impossible to touch. But Srila Gurudev was able to extend it shockingly to dizzying heights in introducing Braj Rasa, Braj Prem, and like he drenches the cake that Prabhupada built with all of this out of this world nectarian cherry juice. It just completely inundates the cake. And Srila Gurudev's cherry is not some ordinary cherry. It's so huge it threatens to overcome the whole cake. And they really are a tag team. And they're really inseparable from one another. They're bosom friends. They served in the mutt the same way. One rolled the chapatis and the other one cooked them. So Prabhupada's the greatest, maker of chapatis. No one's made more chapatis than he has. And so Srila Gurudev has a task of cooking them all. And that is what they're doing now. So Srila Gurudev represents the topmost Braj Premacharya of our time. Par excellence, indisputable. He is the true successor of Srila Prabhupada. Even if you don't believe, if you are unfortunate, you don't believe Sripad Bhakti Vedanta Bhagavad Maharaj's presentation about the final days. Just naturally, if you study the Tattva, it succeeds in a certain fashion. It goes from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti. It goes from Vaikuntha Prem to Vraj Prem. It goes from Vishaya Bhagwan to Ashraya Bhagwan. It goes from the Aishvarya conception of the Lord to the Madhurya conception of the Lord. And it moves from the external mood of Mahaprabhu to the internal mood of Mahaprabhu. That's the way the Tattva naturally succeeds. So naturally, Gurudev is the natural successor of Srila Prabhupada because that is what he came to give. This final extra template to fulfill Prabhupada's temple, this installment to fulfill the preaching template of Srila Prabhupada's. So he's come to complete Srila Prabhupada. He is the summation of Srila Prabhupada. So we have to see them like this. And really, this is really glorifying Srila Gurudev tremendously. We see him this way, that he's come to fulfill. He's like a jigsaw puzzle piece, and you can just have him on its own, but when you put him together with Srila Prabhupada, that's the glory. So these two jigsaw puzzle pieces have to come together. So, Srila Gurudev, I remember he was in the garden, and some devotee asked him, Srila Gurudev, we're told that of the 9 angas of bhakti, Shravanam and Kirtanam are the most prominent. And the devotee asked Srila Gurudev, of the two, Shravanam or Kirtanam, which is most important? So Srila Gurudev, we're all waiting in anticipation, and he answers, between Shravanam and Kirtanam, he says Guru Seva. He said Guru Seva. And Rasik Mohan Prabhu has been speaking about the importance of Guru Seva, because Guru Seva gives us really the blessings to enter into Nam. And so doing service to these two global acharyas is our duty. Our process is really about two things, sadhana and seva. Sadhana and seva. Tasting and distributing. Tasting and distributing. So, Srila Gurudev, when he would travel, he would say, everywhere I go, I always see the same faces. Where are all the new faces? He said this in Malaysia, in Penang. Sripad Padmanabh Maharaj, who has just now arrived, told me this story about new faces. And this is really what Mahaprabhu's order is. Mahaprabhu's order, one of Mahaprabhu's reasons for his descent, we've heard the 3 internal reasons, is one of the reasons for Mahaprabhu's descent is that he is on a debt mission. He owes a debt. When Krishna says, na pareham, I cannot repay you, I cannot repay to the gopis. So he comes as Mahaprabhu, and he shaves his beautiful keshava hair, become a sannyasi, because he knows as a sannyasi he'll be able to recruit and attract more to his mission. And he's on a recruitment mission to recruit manjus to join Srimati Radhikaji's camp. And that's the way he's paying his debt to them, by glorifying them and by recruiting manjus in this most fortunate of Kali Yugas, the Danya Kali Yuga, which comes once every 8,600,000,000 years. So Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada are both emissaries of Srimati Radhikaji's mission. So it is incumbent on all of us to be able to develop both our sadhana and our service to Guru. And that's why we have like 2 legs, not just one. And really the challenge of our time is to unite the internal mood of Mahaprabhu with the external mood of Mahaprabhu, to really unite the legacies of Srila Gurudev with that of Srila Prabhupada. Initially when he came, he did not want us to go out and distribute books, because he recognized that we needed to know more about Tattva. We needed to know about the Ragamula conception. we needed to know more about the internal mood of Mahaprabhu and the real reasons for his descent. And we needed to know the most important thing, which Srila Gurudev gave, which was the actual goal of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which prior to Srila Gurudev was very hazy. It wasn't really known in all.
Hari Hari Bol. Look who's here.
So that is what we are. We are all Ashraya under Ashraya Bhagavan, Srimati Radhika Ji. Prabhupada establishes Vishaya Bhagavan, and Srila Gurudev has come to establish Ashraya Bhagavan. Prabhupada came to establish Sri Krishna, and Srila Gurudev has come to establish Srimati Radhika. Srila Gurudev really represents Srimati Radhika Ji's coming out party. Srila Prabhupada always sort of kept Srimati Radhika a little bit at bay for us first, because her position is so high. And in other places in the Gaudiya Math, you will notice that others do not preach like Srila Gurudev. He's extremely unique in his way. And like Rupa Goswami Pad, he divulged all the secrets that Mahaprabhu came to give. Others did not. But Rupa Goswami was the one. And so that's why Rupa Goswami is called Bachal. Bachal means talkative. And so Srila Gurudev is very talkative. He was the one that took the risk to broadcast these deep treasures. And the actual reason for Mahaprabhu's descent, which is given in the verse that very much summarizes Srila Gurudev's preaching, mission, and legacy, and that is the Anarpita Chitim Sharat verse. It's Unnata Ujvala Rasa Svabhakti Shriyam. This Svabhakti Shriyam, this treasure of bhakti, which is Srimati Radhika's, that hasn't been given in a very, 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 very long time. 8,600,000,000 years. This conjugal rasa. In previous yugas, this door of Raj Prem is completely shut. Some devotees don't recognize this, that in previous yugas you can only get Vaikuntha Prem. That's the limit. But in this Danya Kali Yuga, the door of Raj Prem is opened by Mahaprabhu. So it is the only business of every jiva to participate and completely surrender to Gaura Lila that is taking place right now. This earth is called Sadhan Bhumi. It means the place of sadhan. Everyone in the whole in the universe wants to come here, because this is the perfect place to perform sadhana. It's kind of like it's like Cape Canaveral for the space shuttle. You have to, in order for the space shuttle to take off to go into space, it has to be in a particular place, either in California or in Florida, in Cape Canaveral, to leave. So in order for the jiva to leave the material world, it has to come to Earth. Has to come to Sadhan Bhumi. It's perfect for the place for sadhan because in the lower planets, there's too much suffering. Everything is burning. There's too much pain and suffering to do bhajan. The upper planetary systems, it's like one non-stop party. They have so much sense gratification, long life, very little disease. There's anxiety there too, but nothing like here. But Earth is the perfect combination of pain and pleasure. It's perfect to do bhajan. So, this is the time really now to expand the Leela Mahaprabhu. Srila Gurudev wanted now, he says, it's time to expand my mission in the time of Swamiji. Some think Srila Gurudev wants different than what Srila Prabhupada wants. They want the same thing. Very important to understand. When I initially came from ISKCON, I first thought maybe this is a different mission because I couldn't understand it initially. And I remember I took Srila Prabhupada's organizational chart and I gave it to Srila Gurudev, and I was expecting it to be rejected of the type of preaching, mission, and outreach. I thought it was more of a Bhajananandi type of mission, that we're just here to do bhajan and that's really it. But Srila Gurudev taught me differently. He said, I want just like in the time of Swamiji. I want just like in ISKCON. I want to see new faces. So this is actually Gauranga's direct order. He wants all to go to all towns and villages and collect these Jiva souls for a Mahaprabhu. So Srila Prabhupada really, they really represent like the left and right ventricles of Srimati Radhikaji's heart, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. They're like the twin legs of the compass around which all Vedic thought circumambulates, Vaidhi and Raganuga. And Srila Prabhupada, he invited us to the theater of Sri Krishna's pastimes and gave us a front row seat. But then Srila Gurudev came along and gave us a backstage pass. He takes us behind the scenes of what's really going on in the Leelas. So these two acharyas are absolutely indispensable. They can never be separated. And I feel in the centennial year of Srila Gurudev's 100th anniversary of his descent and Srila Prabhupada's 125th, that uniting these two acharyas together in our hearts and in the preaching mission of Mahaprabhu is really incumbent upon everyone to do in order to grow in their bhakti and in order for the mission of Mahaprabhu to be successful. Without Srila Prabhupada's blessings, it is impossible to succeed on the global stage. Even Srila Gurudev, they asked him, why are you so successful? You must have the blessings of your Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And he said, no. It wasn't because of Jack. He says, because I have Swamiji's blessings. He is the pioneer. He's the one that we owe everything to. And every molecule we breathe, every atom we take in has his name eternally stamped on it as our eternal benefactor and redeemer for all time's sake. Prabhupada paid the price. He came on his own, did it all. And he laid the foundation upon which everyone is now coming. And then some time went by and I went to the Gurukula in Dallas. I went to New Vrindavan Gurukula in Dallas, Texas Gurukula. And that was really quite a phenomenal experience. Like I said, Gurukula leaves such an impression when you wake up and you hear Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you have the shloka, the Bhagavatam shloka given to you, and you're saying the Chintamani prayers, you're seeing the deities early in the morning for a child growing up with that. It's so profoundly changing and becomes the anchor. It's an impression that never goes away. It's stuck and cemented inside, hardwired, can never come out. So that's why Gurukula is essential. So I was there for some time, and then I had a Prabhupada was going to be coming to Dallas, and I thought, oh, I had a chance to see him, but I developed tonsillitis. And I had to be flown back to Canada for a tonsillitis operation, so I missed Srila Prabhupada there. But then Srila Prabhupada was going to come to Toronto, and I said, this is finally my time. I will finally get to see the Master. So Prabhupada was coming to Toronto. We got the Toronto Temple together. It was how many years? Yeah, 72. Now this is summer of 74. It's like 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years. And I'm 9 years old now, yeah. So then I said, this is my time. I'm gonna be seeing Srila Prabhupada now. This is finally gonna happen. And I remember I was in the Brahmacharya ashram sleeping the night before he was arriving. And I had this thought. And it was that I know when I stand in front of him, he will know all my thoughts. So the devotees got conch shells, flowers, chamras, fans, and these banyan leaves that they would pretend to put in front of Prabhupada's feet as he would walk. And we had devotees from all the eastern seaboard. There were sannyasis, there were GBC. They'd all come to this temple in Toronto, and we all went to the airport to greet him. And we were in front of this escalator. They said that Prabhupada's coming in front of this escalator. And there was this huge roaring kirtan that was just insane. Some devotee screams, Prabhupada's not coming from this escalator, he's coming from that one down there. So all the devotees, like a swarm of locusts, just kind of swarmed across the airport, knocking people down. And they went to this escalator, just a swarm of bees, not locusts, but a swarm of bees. We run to this escalator and just barely get there in time. I'm just standing in front of it, and the escalator had a threshold, a glass threshold, like smoked glass. And all of a sudden, these two orange lotus feet start to descend the staircase, the escalator, and they come slowly into view. That was the first time I ever saw Prabhupada's feet just being descending down. Couldn't see his whole body because of the threshold. So it was just these two lotus feet descending an escalator. You couldn't have had a better, more cinematic entrance, than this. And Prabhupada slowly comes into view. And when he comes into view, all the devotees scream, Prabhupada, like this. And it was the greatest moment of ecstasy of these devotees who had made this temple for Prabhupada's the Toronto temple. And behind it was Brahmananda and Satsvarup and Hari Sori's secretary. And we were given one instruction: when Prabhupada comes through the airport, no one should touch his feet. They should keep his path clear, let him walk. So don't touch his feet. That was one thing they told us. So then Prabhupada comes and he's beaming, he's smiling, beaming, and he has his arms up, and all the devotees are just losing it. Then Prabhupada comes into the foyer, and then the devotees start to put banyan leaves down for Prabhupada to walk. And the kirtan's at the highest crescendo. The chamras are going, the fans are going, the flower petals are being showered, the holy water's being thrown. And when Prabhupada comes into the foyer, we completely disregard that instruction that was given to us, and we threw ourselves at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet and just held on. And I did that as a boy. And my mother did it too. And Prabhupada had these wonderful kind of saffron cloth shoes that he had. And Prabhupada just smiled. And all of us was grabbing on. There was all these Indians too, just holding on and wouldn't let him go. You know? And then Prabhupada has to come to the temple. So he's supposed to take the scenic route, the long way, to get back to the temple, so that the devotees could quickly rush back to the temple for the greeting of the temple. So there was this Lincoln Continental that Prabhupada had there, and there was a devotee named Ramesh Arora, an Indian fellow who was like an uncle of mine. He got to drive Prabhupada. So Prabhupada goes into the Lincoln Continental, it's bedecked with garlands, and then we go in vans to the temple. And we've got banyan leaves out, the conch shells are glowing, and all of a sudden the Lincoln Continental comes up, and then Prabhupada comes into the temple. And like I said, devotees from all the eastern seaboard. This is a small house, it's just a 3-story small house. So Prabhupada comes into the temple, he goes into the temple room, and he sits on the Vyasasana. And this was the same Vyasasana that I did the Guru Puja every day to Srila Prabhupada. So I made sure this time that I was going to be close. So, no, I was not going to do the puja. I just did the puja to the picture. They had others. They didn't really know what to do with my brother and I. Like, we were like the first Indians, right? And there were all these Western devotees there who were much bigger. I remember when I was a kid, the devotees' feet were this big, and ours were like this small. I was on the kirtan, and they would dance. they would dance like this. You have to be careful, you know. It's like I'm gonna be stepped on, stomped on, you know, by them. It was like Jurassic Park for us almost, you know. So they didn't know what to do with us, especially the temple presidents. Two of them. It was with Mishloka and Vishwakarma. They, you know, just do the laundering. Our nicknames, my brother and I, were Jagai and Madai, just to give you an idea of how we were regarded when we first came. We slowly graduated from Jagai and Madai to Rup Sanatan. That was our other names we got. Then Gornitai. We kept on going, you know. So it was like slow progression. So there was a spot in front of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana, and I kind of parked myself. I'm going to stay right here. I remember there was this black and white tile that we had on the floor, and I'm standing, Prabhupada's like here, because it didn't have these large steps at a Vyasasana, and I'm literally just about 3 feet away, just 3 feet away from him. And there's no one between he and I, just him and me, and then other devotees on the other part of the Vyasasana, but I'm just standing right in front of him. Then the Guru Puja begins, and I completely lose it. I danced my heart out for Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhupada, looking at him, and Prabhupada was playing the cartels, and he would look around, and then he would just look directly into my eyes. And then look around, and then look directly into my eyes. And I was just going mad. And he would look around, and then he would look directly into my eyes. And this went on for like 20, 25 minutes. And during the Guru Puja, Prabhupada was receiving all these garlands from these dignitaries. And I've said this before, Prabhupada wore his garlands like a lion's mane. He never took them off. So they were like big and thick. And he was playing the cartels, he was looking at him, and he was looking around like this. And then at the end of the Guru Puja, all the sannyasis, the GBC are all there with their dandas. Srila Prabhupada stops. It's after the Jayadevani prayers, and it's completely quiet. And he hasn't said a single word in Toronto yet. And he's playing with his garlands, starts trying to taking them off. And he stops. And then he looks at me and he says, "Give these garlands to that dancing boy." A beautiful dancing boy like that. And I go into like shock. Totally shocked. And so they take Prabhupada's garlands and they put them all on me in front of everybody. And the 2 temple presidents didn't like me too much. And so I'm standing there with this kid, 9-year-old, with all of Prabhupada's garlands on me. And the GBC and the sannyasis are all around, and they're coming to me to sniff the garlands. It was crazy. And then I thought, okay, I'm in trouble now. So after that day, Prabhupada just starts to pour all this mercy on me. I wasn't the kid. They said no kids on the morning walks, but I was allowed. Prabhupada allowed me to come on the morning walks. I went to all the morning walks, and then after the morning walks, Prabhupada would get a tray of cookies. Prabhupada cookies, they call them shortbread cookies, that he would pass out to all the devotees. So they'd give him the cookies. And like I said, after that first day, I figured, okay, I've overstayed my welcome. I've gotten way more than I've ever could possibly conceive in any lifetime to get. So I'm going to hide away in the corner crowd. And then he would spot me in the corner, and they would just call me like this. And I would come, and then he would give me the cookie, the first cookie, and then I paid my obeisances, and then he would start with the rest of the devotees. So he did this like every day that he was there. He would call me, and I would take the cookie, and then he would give over and over. And one thing happened also is I had a therapeutic mattress that I would sleep at. My mom's place, she had a little apartment outside close to the temple, and Prabhupada needed a mattress to sleep on when he was there. So he selected mine. So Prabhupada slept in my bed the whole time there, and Srila Gurudev in our home in Los Angeles slept on my bed there So by their causeless mercy, I had this kind of bed. Him again a couple of years later in 1976. In 1976, I saw him on my birthday, June 20th, which was the last time I saw Srila Prabhupada. I was 11, yeah. And the last time I saw Srila Prabhupada was also on June 20th, on my birthday in Los Angeles. They just arranged it. The last time his sickness passed in 2010, he left the Bhakti Festival, went to LA for a day, and it was June 20th. It was like a last birthday gift, you know. And then he went. But when I first saw Srila Gurudev, to get back to what Padmanabha said, it was a devotee named Nistinta Prabhu. He took me to see Srila Gurudev. This one is a hard one. I think it was in the early 2000s, like 2000, I think it was initially. I think it was 2000, yeah. And he told me, you got to go see Srila Prabhupada's godbrother. You got to go see him. He's the real deal. He's not like anybody else around here. He's the real deal. You got to see him. I said, okay. So I asked Malini, my daughter, I said, we're going to go see Srila Prabhupada's godbrother. So come with me, we'll go. And we went both in the car. It was late at night. Came up to this place, Badger, New Brush. And when we came for the darshan, Srila Gurudev was in his room. And he was sitting on a cot. He was doing some translation work. And so Nistinta Prabhu brought me, and my daughter was with me. We came and we paid our obeisances. And then as soon as I got my head up, Srila Gurudev said, oh, you brought me such a beautiful boy. And I was in my late 30s, you know, when I met Srila Gurudev. And so he had the same thing. Like, I counted the syllables. Prabhupada spoke 9 syllables to me that ended with the word boy. And Srila Gurudev spoke 10 syllables to me that ended with the word boy. And it almost, he told me that, yeah, I've come to add one more syllable to what your Swamiji has given. And he told me, just the same love and affection that I described with Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev just kind of poured that on me. And he grabbed me. We were walking out of the after the darshan, and he told me, you stay close to me. And then in Hindi he said, Tu hamara pyara beta bhan gaya, you become my beautiful son. And I remember when I touched Srila Gurudev's lotus feet, his feet looked identical to Prabhupada's. They're the same whitish nail, and their skin, Prabhupada's skin had a very shimmery quality. It was always shiny. And they looked the same, and it was the lilt in his voice, the affection, and I knew, I said, he is back. Prabhupada is back. And he did many, many mystical things. I remember in the LA temple, this is after he had left, I would ask questions to Srila Gurudev's picture. And what happened was that it came time where he was coming to Los Angeles, and apparently his accommodations had fallen through. And I was driving my youngest daughter to school one day, Lalita, and I credit her with the idea. She said, Gurudev is coming to Los Angeles. He should stay at our house. And I just looked at her and I went, well, of course. So I told Nistinta Prabhu, who's the temple president, I said, I'm offering the home if Srila Gurudev would like to come. You know, we'd love to host him. And Malini, my eldest daughter, she was in Toronto, Canada at the time, at my mom's place. And that's quite a phenomenal story there, what happened and how Gurudev grabbed her. But I told him Mr. and then he said, well, ask Srila Gurudev, and then Srila Gurudev after a few days accepted. And he came in June 2006 for the first time in the home and turned it into a tirta, into a rocket ship going to Goloka. And in the darshan, my daughter Molly was there, and she was quite young, so she didn't really, I was doing most of the talking, she was just like listening. But Srila Gurudev was looking at her. And, you know, Srila Gurudev's like the master of pickpocket. He's just, he was born on the Amavasya night, where there's no moon, it's dark, where thieves come out. And he's, you know, he has this very deceptive look about him. They think Prabhupada was very strict. And Srila Gurudev's all very, you know, amenable and sweet and soft and not so strict. Nothing could be further from the truth. Srila Gurudev is very deceptive. He has this kind of, oh, is everything okay? Are you all right? He's just coming to loot everything. He's just coming to steal everything. You know? And so you don't even know he's coming, and all of a sudden everything in your life is gone. You're just taking it. And, you know, so it's like master pickpocket just comes and takes you. So he was looking at Malini, and then what happened was the darshan ended, and then she had to go back to Toronto. She was there and being raised by my mother, because I wanted her to have the same upbringing that I had in the temple with Srila Prabhupada, because it stays with you forever, and it'll make you. So what happened was that, then there's no Gurudev disciples there. There's just no way that she's going to get any Gurudev nurturance from that initial meeting in Toronto, Canada. But my mom was renting out her basement. She had a little, like a bed there, like a little apartment makeshift that she had down there. So she was renting it, and all of a sudden these Puri Maharaj disciples show up, knocking on the door, looking for a place to rent. Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj. Wow, that's even more telling. Okay, yeah, now the circle is complete. Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj. You know, Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj was the one that Srila Prabhupada really had a great fondness for, because he appreciated Srila Prabhupada very, very much. Prabhupada said he had no envy of him. Prabhupada builds the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Mandir, and then laying the foundation, he took Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj down there with him to lay down the Sheshanag, that's in the foundation of that, for his entire worldwide mission. That's how Srila Prabhupada felt about Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, who has had quite an impact and continues to do on Prabhupada's mission through his heirs. So the Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj disciples, what were their names? Bhadra and Raghava. Bhadra and Raghava come, and they knock on the door, and they ask my mom for accommodation. So my mother agrees. But just see how stealthily the pickpocket works. So they are downstairs, and what are they doing? They're playing all these tapes of the other acharyas. And they're playing Srila Gurudev's lectures. So my daughter goes down there, and she's developing a friendship and a relationship with them, and some months since I got the go-ahead that we're going to host Srila Gurudev. And then I called her on the phone and said, you know, we're going to host Srila Gurudev. She'd already decided that Gurudev was going to be her guru after listening to the lectures. So I can still remember to this day, she screamed on the other end of the phone, you know, in total ecstasy and outrageousness that we have the great good fortune to actually house and accommodate a member of the Parampara Srila Gurudev of that stature is now coming to our home. So she screamed, and we quickly made arrangements for her to come, and then Gurudev came to the house in June of 2006. And it was just the most phenomenal experience. And then he took the home as his own, and he kept on coming. He came 3 other times afterwards and turned it into a holy tirtha. And he knew that Prabhupada was so strong for me, and to replace Prabhupada for me was almost impossible, because he had really entered into every cell in my body. When he gave me those garlands, he just kind of grabbed me, and that was it. And it was hard for me initially coming to Srila Gurudev. I didn't know how to fit it in. Because Prabhupada was just so overwhelming. For him, for us, he was like Jesus Christ. And we couldn't think of anyone following that up. He was in a darshan, and the very question that I would ask, he would over the shoulder of another devotee so that I would hear it. And this constantly occurred, and all my questions were answered, and he knew, and he was kind of showing me that I'm omnipotent. Another thing very oddly he did, and I can't explain this to this day, but I was given the service of picking him up at the airport when he came in 2006. So I'm in the van in the driver's seat, and the passenger seat is empty, and the van is empty. I'm at the Los Angeles curb, and the security passes you off soon by a security guard. I'm staying there, and I hear the kirtan going on in the front, in the airport. And then all of a sudden, and I can't explain it to this day, Srila Gurudev walks out alone from the airport, completely unattended, like no devotees. And he comes directly to the passenger side, and he looks at me and he smiles and he goes like this. I was like, I'm blessing it, and I've heard you, because I asked the questions to this picture. Then all of a sudden, this other Gurudev shows up with all the devotees. Yeah, I mean, that was like, what? They're like almost two Gurudevs. One came out ahead of everybody, and I'm in the car, in the van. He comes out, and he comes right to the passenger window, and he just smiles, and he looks at me and blessed like that. And then all of a sudden, another Gurudev shows up with all the entourage, and they kind of almost merge. I didn't know where the other one went.
Who was that?
And it was just kind of showing me a little bit of omnipotence. You know, someone told me about Vaman Maharaj. Yes.
We had
Louder.
days during the afternoon or late morning, 10:30.
Yes.
Where more of these.
Yes. Very good. I'm
There's
so
not
glad.
enough.
Yeah.
You could go on, and we've happily listened for hours and hours.
Yes, I know.
But it is what it is.
Absolutely. You've indulged me enough, and
No.
for indulging me in sharing these pastimes to the I'm very honored to be here. I can't believe how well attended the festival is after the pandemic. And these kirtans that night, it's almost like pandemic fever uncorked. As our devotees gone crazy. I'm feeling it. It's like, well, yeah, last night, Rasik Mohan, his very Raj Kirtan he brought. And, you know, I don't know what happened.
Definitely. That was the design, one play of Krishna. So that he wants to develop his more curiosity for him, his love for him. So when there is, and that's why Gurudev is we are hearing every day telling, don't criticize. You are not authority to check on someone's lifestyle. Who knows what is plan going on? Mind your own anarthas. Mind your own anarthas. Who knows how Gurudev, of course, something is going on. And from so many lifetimes, some impressions, they're blocking. So maybe after that blockage is over, the bhakti goes very high. With more speed, 4x speed. So if Gurudev is neglecting for some point, or we feel that he is neglecting, it's not like others putting his hands on my shoulder, or is not calling me for something, there is some purpose. And that purpose is very subtle because there cannot be any inauspiciousness in any activity of Srila Gurudev and in the activities of Krishna. This Mangal, the abode of auspiciousness, Mangal Bhavan, and which throws all among us inauspiciousness out. If that is the case, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, the founder of the Gaudiya Maths, so many of his prominent disciples got so much association from him. And sometimes he's just telling them to go away and preach. No need to even come to me. Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Goswami Maharaj, Prabhupada gave him title Volcanic Energy. Really he was. If you read his biography, The Volcanic Energy, written by Srila Bharti Goswami Maharaj, we see that. And tremendous power and so subtle in all dealings.
You hide your cup. You hide your cup.
He, after preaching for months, want to celebrate Krishna Janmashtami with his Guru Maharaj just for one day,
I have my cup.
to hear Hari Katha from him. So he arrived in the morning and he kept his bag, paid obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, so where are you going next? And he understood what my Guru Maharaj wanted to indicate. He came to Shida Mayapur to celebrate Janmashtami with his Guru Maharaj. And he immediately said, shower, go. And there is nothing like no. Everything is yes, Gurudev. If that is the case, what I wanted to say is, if I, just one example, okay, please not take it otherwise. If I am with Gurudev and for 1 minute Gurudev saw me and said something to me, and after 11 years I come to Gurudev and he again said something to me, and that's it. I'll be considered as a neglected disciple. Then I will say, oh, Manmohan Prabhu, Shivanand Prabhu, Gaur-Sundar Prabhu, they are lucky. They used to go morning walks with Gurudev. Buddha used to put his hands on his shoulder, speaking to them nicely. Yes, neglected disciple. Srila Swami Maharaj, neglected disciple, only 2 interactions. So that close proximity is not the barometer. Adoption of moods of Gurudev is the most important, even if it is one glance, or even if it is not that. In the example of Sri Ramanujacharya, his Guru Maharaj, Sri Yamunacharya, he left his body. And Sri Ramanujacharya approached him when he was already departed from this planet. But he established the moods of Sri Yamunacharya. That adoption of mood is more important than any other thing. If I started speaking some of my very small little, this has nothing to do with Guru Bhakti.
I was so overwhelmed by his devotion and dedication to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And like we've heard so much how Srila Gurudev had the same move as my Srila Prabhupada to establish this mission of Srila Rupa Goswami. Because Prabhupada also said, our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is established under the authority Srila Kamala Maharaj briefly at that time also. So this time it was the Gurudev had his new room upstairs in the Mat, and some of my god sisters they took me up there, and I was just kind of hanging around. There's a pillar by his door, and I was kind of hanging around it a little bit separate. And as Gurudev came up and he came in, and he turned to me and he just said, "You are my dear, darling daughter." And then Vardhana said, "Oh, Gurudev, she's your sister. Not your daughter, she's your sister." And then Gurudev looked at me and said, "Right, you are from Swami Maharaj." So he was, he accepted me in that way. Another time here in Badger, I've been going through some little bit of confusion about the Gaudiya Siddhanta. And I was, Gurudev saw me in his room here and he kind of looked at me like, "What's up with you?" And I said, "Gurudev, I'm feeling some pain in my heart and some regret." And he kind of, like everyone said, he bores into your eyes. He sees your whole being. He looked at me and he said, "Surrender everything. Your body, your mind, your words. Come in the palm of my hand." And then he picked up a rose that was on his desk. And he said, "Like this. I can move this rose anywhere." He said, "So you do like this?" And he said, "Then, when fragrance comes, I will offer to the feet of Sri Radha and Krishna." So I pray for that day when some fragrance might come to my heart, that I can please my Gurudevs. And I'm also very happy and grateful to be with all of you and to have an association. Without each other, where would we be? Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Krishna.
Thank you so much. I've been to her house. I saw socks of Srila Prabhupada, the lota, so many things she collected, the memories of Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you. If a question comes, did Gurudev reinitiated everyone? In one sense, yes. Hearing our Shiksha Gurus, there's so many instructions and so much inspiration they give, but one point really strikes to us so much. That one teaching or instruction acts as a mantra. Just like we chant mantras. While chanting Harinam in our meditation, when we remember those mantras, Diksha. In the absence of Diksha Guru, when Shiksha Guru comes in our life, as Srila Gurudev came in our life, and he nourished us with that bhakti, that's also Diksha. So in that sense, from that perspective, yes, he reinitiated us. Reinitiation. Because we don't even know what is the meaning of the mantras. And elaborating initiation, Diksha. And we are receiving Diksha each and every day. Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. By serving them. Serving them means by hearing from them. We are reviving that process of Diksha because the Diksha is not complete. Diksha Kale Bhakta Kore Atma Samarpan. Sei Kale Krishna Kore Tar Atma Sam. Of initiation, a devotee surrender oneself to Gurudev. Oneself to Gurudev. In the same moment, Krishna Kore Tar Atma Sam. Krishna appear. Atma Sam means oneness with Krishna. Initiation is happened 30 years back, 20 years back, 40 years back. Where is realization of Krishna? Where is the Atma Sam, oneness with Krishna? Because that's the...
Nobody likes you.
You like him. Read that there. That's not, we're not in the movie theater. Sorry I missed your class. I hope somebody's taking all these things. 7:30 out. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. So tonight's play is for the pleasure of Srila Gurudev, who held this pastime very close to his heart. So with all of your blessings, we can make you all laugh, make Gurudev laugh, and smile, and maybe a little bit of crying. Listen, for from ear to heart does wisdom come, and with haste we must share this tale. For no time can be hoarded, and wears down all, from man to beast to whale. The Ramayana is a poem, a spotless epic tale. Through Narada Ji and Valmiki do we pray for winds to sail. And through Guru's grace, if we have such faith, can we find the poem's heart. Their names are Ram and Sita, and with their names we take our start. In Ayodhya, city of splendor, did King Dasarath have his throne, and the day did come where his dear son Ram, from youth to man had grown. Ram, I declare, and all should know my prideful devas, and quickened the hearts of man. Now through this play sets its stage at a time of festive heights. Think not for 1 second the Ramayana does not contain its nights. War and blood and lust of heart lie not only in the dark, but swim within all of us like a toothed, silent shark. In this story of Sita and Ram, there is something that all should know, that love above all else is the sharpest arrow, and the eyes its strongest bow.
Sita, they are the sons of King Dashrath by
Lakshman. And the one that looks like the Emerald Sea crashing to the shore is Prince Ram. It seems you are interested in visiting the ocean.
Do not be silly. I'm very happy here on solid ground. Do you know why they visit our father?
Why else? To win the hand of goddess Sita, born Bhumi, goddess of the earth. Or should I say Menaka, the heavenly Apsara who is your mother. I seem to lose track.
Stop being foolish, sister, or you can join the company of those two. They must have heard our father's stipulation. No man can marry me unless they lift the bow of Lord Shiva.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to lighten the mood. Many other princes and kings couldn't even budget. It would take Lord Vishnu himself to string that bow.
Yes, Urmila, you may be right. Let us then see if the ocean is stronger than the moon.
Shall I fetch your marriage garland then?
Yes, sister. I believe you should.
Lord Ram did take the bow as that flower picked for love, and strung it like harp, and cracked it apart, then echoed to skies above. A garland for a flower did make the two become one, and with the marriage of Ram and Sita had the Ramayana begun. But just as festivity and merriment fell upon their hearts, a foul decree of banishment tore their lives apart. To the forest for 14 years, Ram would not be king. Instead, his brother Bharat's destiny would from prince to monarch swing. And as 3 paupers to the forest went, Ram, his wife, and brother, in Ayodhya all did weep, from urchin, merchant, and mother.
My dear Lord, your presence here has brought all auspiciousness to our forest.
I can detect some misgivings in your tone of voice, O Brahmin. Tell me, how are your cows? Are your ashrams all peaceful?
O Lord, in this forest dwells a demoness, and she is defiling our sacrifices. Her name is Suparnaka, and she is supported by 2 brothers, and they also enjoy the taste of flesh. They have a savage army, and they come and make our lives impossible. Please, dear Ram, please, you are the embodiment of all auspiciousness, and you are the super soul, and you are the Vanquishwa of all demons. Please help us.
Do not fear. We shall cleanse this forest of all the Rakshasas who threaten it and restore peace to your lives.
I was just thinking how lucky we are to have a brother like Bharat, who is the pillar of devotion.
Yes, even now he is approaching the same Godavari River to do his morning prayers. Just like us, he chooses to live his life as a hermit when he could easily be living as a prince in the palace.
He lives in austerity for our sake. He has all the good qualities of our dear father, and none of the wickedness of his mother Kaikeyi. Oh, how could such a cruel woman birth such a righteous son?
Lakshman, stop your criticism. You may glorify the good qualities of Bard as you like, but do not speak ill of our dear mother Kaike. She's performing a very difficult service for you. I am Ram, the eldest son of King Dasarath. This is my brother Lakshman and my wife Sita. I'm here in this forest in abeyance of my father and mother's wishes. Now please tell me who you are and why you're here.
Oh, my sweet-faced Ram. I am the sister of the heroic king of the...
Easily on my brother Ram. He will surely take you if you are insistent. And then he will quickly forget about Sita.
Ram, is this true? Is this annoying little insect, Sita, the only thing standing in our way of enjoying together? Well then, I shall slay her and devour her flesh!
Lakshman, no more games! I just have to save Sita from this Rakshasi. Teach her a lesson and prevent her return.
My nose! My ears! Oh, you will pay for this! You will all pay!
Get up. What is this? Stop your sniffling and get up.
Oh, my brothers! I have been mutilated by 3 insignificant...
Oh, shameless Rakshasa!
I know.
In accordance with the rules of warfare, I will give you this